Hi. So yesterday we got together at the AI Collective Vibe Coding Night and built this little app called House Ledger. Let me show you what the app looks like, and then you can watch the entire recording of how we went from zero to this app in about 2 hours. So this is the homepage. This is the landing page we built for the app. Looks great. You scroll down, it talks about some of the features people can expect from this app, and then a CTA to get started. So yeah, this landing page is the first thing we started with. Then when you go here, we have all the usual sign in, sign up, and log in. So now that I'm inside, I can go to my rooms and then have kitchen, living room. I can add a new room. It has this little simple way of adding other rooms like office. I can edit. There are some items here, but if I were to click on office, I can add an item like work desk, category, furniture. I can add a description. Maybe I bought it beginning of the month and it's about $400. So I add that, and now I have that here, and I can add reminders, which we'll talk about in a bit. But you can look at like other items that we have added. Going back, we can see I can add an item. I can search for items. Clicking on an item shows me the details. I can add documents under that item, add reminders, look at the entire room. Going back to my rooms, there's kitchen. I have my refrigerator. I have a reminder to change filter, which I can click and edit. When is the next due date, and so on and so forth. Going back, my maintenance reminders of anything that's upcoming shows up here. Going to the reminders section, I can see upcoming this week, due today, and other reminders. We also have reports, which shows items distribution by room. I can export all of this data, and I can click on all the documents that I've uploaded and download those documents as well. So that's the app. So now let's go back to the session, and you can watch from the beginning, absolutely from zero, how did we create this app. Some of the features that you see here, it was after the session. I just cleaned a few things up, but we got quite a bit further along in the 2 hours that we had with the team. All right, cheers, enjoy. Let me talk about what I'm thinking, because like I mentioned in the registration snippet that we shared, that I'm totally coming to this unprepared, and that's on purpose because most of us have a general idea of what they're thinking of building. You haven't really fleshed out exactly what the interface or the look and feel of the product would be, who will use it, why does the world need this, what is something that other people are not doing that I can do in this product. So all of those things I haven't thought of. And given that we're ready to go, let's first of all go into Lovable. So I've already signed up for Lovable, but if you haven't, the link is lovable.dev. I'll put that in the chat. So go to that link and sign up. And what you usually get is 5 credits is what they call it per day. And I've definitely built mini apps in the past that only used 5 credits. What we're building today will probably use more than 5. So Priya was nice enough to share her paid account with us. So I'm going to be using that to build this product. But we have, I think, the first $20 plan that they offer, which gives you 100 credits. And the definition of a credit has gotten a little murky over time. It used to be every message that you send in Lovable is 1 credit. Now it's how they decide how much of work is being done by AI based on the message that you sent. So the only way to really know what a credit means is to try out the product. And given that they give you 5 credits per day for free, I've seen some of my clients do like a few messages today, take a break, come back next day, do a few messages, take a break, come back the next day, do a few messages. So it's like that limit of 5 credits per day actually forces you to slow down, think through the whole day, what's the next thing I want to build, and then come back to Lovable. So it's totally doable to build fairly good internal apps using Lovable. And before we get started, let me show you around what Lovable has here. So first of all, if you scroll down, you'll see they have something called templates. There are some internal tools people have built. So you can click on this to preview. So Jan Schaub has built a broker calendar viewer. And you can actually test out this product that this person built. And so it looks like they have multiple properties here. And you can see the booking for all the properties or individual properties. And then you can click on one of these events and see when the viewings are. So probably this is a broker or a real estate agent who's like doing some showings and they build a calendar for themselves. So this is an internal tool. A bunch of people build full-fledged websites with Lovable. So this is a preview of a website where the future of smart textile technology is here. And then so it has what is called a hero section where you have this big bold title and like a call to action. It has these, what everyone loves, these cookie banner. You have about what they do. So it's crazy. Like this whole website was built just by talking to AI. And so that's another template. So templates are something that if you're like, you know what, I'm okay with this. This is the website I wanted to build. Let me start with this. So you can click on open project and you just start with something that's already there. And then you can ask Lovable to change the heading, change the background, change the color theme, and we'll just let you do that. So you can click on remix if you're wanting to do that. So I like this feature quite a bit that some of these people have already spent their credits to give us a good starting point. And then all we do is go a little bit further from what they have already built. But we're not going to do that today. I see a question in the chat, will 5 credits be enough for today's session? Chances are not. But again, I don't know what you're building. So maybe it's enough for what you're building. What I'm going to build, we'll probably go over the 5 credits. But again, you can follow along with the 5 credits, pause, you'll still have the recording. You can come back the next day and then continue and so on and so forth. So feel free to do that as well. All right. So that's looking at other people's templates. And so as you can see, even though there are a bunch of templates here, they're still fairly limited. Now, what I'm going to show you is what people have fully built and launched. Last time I went there, it wasn't working, but there's this link up top here that says launched. If I click on launched, there you go. Okay. So this is like a leaderboard that Lovable has, and it's a great place to see what other people have built. So every week, Lovable, you can, by the way, submit your app, whatever you built, and other people can upvote your app. And as people upvote, you can see 63 apps have been submitted this week. We go last week, 188 apps have been submitted. The week before that, 164, and so on and so forth. So it's like you can go back all the way and really get idea of what people are building using Lovable. Now, some of these products, people start in Lovable and then finish in other ways. Some of these, they start somewhere else and bring to Lovable. So just don't be overwhelmed by, oh, this is crazy. These are like very comprehensive apps. But yeah, this gives you a good window into what other people are building using Lovable. So that's that. Let's go back. All right, so we want to get started to build. So first things first, what are we building? First, I was thinking I'll take a poll, but then I decided, you know what, let me just start with something and we'll ask as we go along any features that you would like to see in the app. So the product that we're going to build today, again, I have a vague idea, but before I go do that, let me show you something like this is, first of all, this is a good prompt. It's a place where you can save your prompts and share with others. So I'm going to share this prompt collection in the chat. just so that if you guys are following along, you can look at this prompt collection and just use it like I'm doing right now. What a prompt collection in Good Prompt is like a title, heading, and 3 prompts here that I want us to follow today to build an app. And if you click on this, you'll see this kind of sidebar open up. And a bunch of stuff I've already written in this case. What I really want to do first, before I even get into Lovable, is take my one-line idea and actually go and turn it into what's called a product brief. So product brief it's like a document that most product teams use to keep all the team members aligned with what is it that we're going to build, or what is it that the company wants to build, or who are we serving. So there are a bunch of things that are something that goes into that document. Now, because most of us are not product managers, we don't know how to write a product brief. But the good thing is we have AI. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in short, my product idea, and then I'll ask ChatGPT to write a more comprehensive product brief. If you don't hear me, just someone post in the chat, but I'm going to use my voice to type over here. I want to build an app that I can use every now and then. Sorry. I want to build an app that I can use. Okay. Looks like it's not working as well. Let me just type. So essentially what I'm building is a home inventory management system. So we have a house, we have a bunch of stuff here. Most people can't remember what's the make and model of your refrigerator, or you can't remember when is the next cartridge, like change of your filter cartridge due, or your softeners, like salt needs to be changed. So essentially the app is going to be a product that people can use to take inventory of everything that you have in your home, and then maybe add reminders against each of those things or whatever else. So I see a question in the chat, which is, what about V0? I've got a subscription for that. So I think V0 is great. And I think lately they have also become an app that can be used for full-fledged apps. What I've used V0 for in the past is simply to create like a prototype for the component and then use that in my production app. So I personally haven't used V0 to go from like 0 to an app that I can share with people as of now, but I know they've launched something recently that you could use it for. Oh yeah, and I'm seeing like if you sign up with one of the invite links that people are sharing, you might get some extra credit. So that's amazing. So
that's a great idea.
Use
Do we want to do a quick pulse on if everyone's on the same page and if they have signed up for an account?
Yeah. If anyone is lagging behind, let me know.
Yeah.
Use this prompt just to create what you would like to build, but I'm just going to type in here in the meantime what we're building.
So just to make sure, Pranay, we're going to be using Good Prompt, ChatGPT, and Lovable, these 3 tools, right?
Yeah, later on, we're going to sign up for something called Superbase as well. So let me post that link here as well. And that will be used for what's called a database. So essentially, database is where if we're talking about saving the list of your equipment somewhere, and we're talking about signing up and signing in, Superbase is what provides us with all that capability. So Lovable works with Superbase, so we're going to use that at some point in the future.
And any model of ChatGPT, any version is okay, right? Or are we looking at any specific?
I think it's 4.0 is fine, 4.0 model, which is the default usually.
Okay.
So I wrote a very simple and small description of my app here. And as you can see, there's like a lot more words here. So I don't need to worry about any of that. I'll just click copy on this prompt, and then I'll go to my ChatGPT and I'll paste it. And what Good Prompt lets you do is like just have these placeholders that anyone can access. And by the way, what I typed here is never saved into Good Prompt. So if there's anything confidential, it stays within your browser. So if I refresh this, I will see it because I'm in the same browser, but I can reset the field values and everything on my browser is also cleared. But yeah, that's how you can use this prompt template. Okay, I pasted it in Good Prompt, in ChatGPT. And as you can see here, this is where that text that I wrote went, and everything else is what was already there. So now this prompt is ready. I'm going to send it. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm not a product manager. I don't know how to talk to AI as a product manager and really explain it to AI. How is it that this product overall should be structured? And so what I'm doing is like letting ChatGPT write all of that stuff for me that I can then give Lovable. But because we did it in a separate app like ChatGPT, we actually have the choice of changing things that we don't like in this. So I'm not going to fully read this whole thing. As you can see, it's very detailed. What I'm going to do is like quickly go over what the brief is. So it's saying product type is a home inventory management app, mobile plus web. So maybe I don't want mobile, so I can edit that later on. Target market is homeowners, renters, hobbyists, landlords, and estate planners. So again, very broad target market. So as someone who's built products in the past, having your market really broad is usually a bad idea. So I'll probably ask it to pare it down a little bit. And then there is a pain point. Most people own a variety of tools, appliances, electronics, and household equipment, yet they rarely have an organized way to track what they own, where it is stored, when it was last serviced, or when is it under warranty. Target user profile, organized homeowner, product overview, smart searchable structured digital catalog. There are some key features like scanning and auto tagging items with AI, maybe organizing by room. And so again, a lot of features here, which I may or may not want to build on the very first go, but we'll keep going. So think of it as like the ultimate vision of your product. And eventually we'll probably start building small. But for now, it's good to see what the overall vision of my product could be. So far, anyone who tried this has built a quick product brief. Any questions that they have?
Sorry for interrupting, Pranay. We have a question in the chat. Can you please paste the prompt here? And I've pasted how to build apps without losing your mind. That's the prompt you used, right?
That's the
Okay.
collection. So in that collection, you have three prompts.
Okay.
We're on the first prompt right now.
Okay. And with this prompt, we are brainstorming on what features do we want to build in our app, who's going to be the target audience for our app, and just like setting the stage for the product, right? That's what we're doing in ChatGPT with
Right.
that prompt.
Yeah. And I see a comment, George, thanks for pointing it out. Claude is also really good. And so if you are familiar with Claude or you have a subscription to Claude but not ChatGPT, feel free to do the same thing. And that's why like when I build Good Prompt, I don't recommend one chatbot over the other. So you can just copy this, paste it in whichever AI you like. I hear Grok 4 is really good as well now. So if someone wants to try that, feel free. But the idea is fairly straightforward. I want to be able to see what a product manager would have written for this product that I want to build. And given that I'm not a product manager, AI is my assistant here who's helping me. Okay, so this is great. It's quite comprehensive. And we took like a cursory look at what. Okay, so at the end, I also asked it to give me some naming options. So hominori, home and inventory. or memory, slashy, modern and playful, nest vault, itinerary, haven tag, shelf wise, tool nest. We'll pick one of these names. And so I'm going to say, actually, let me look at my prompt collection. So next step is like building a landing page, but let's see first. So I choose, let's say, house ledger. Also, so here's my chance to like tell the AI that I have some ideas that I want it to incorporate. So as you read this, chances are in your first original vague idea, you didn't think through all of these things. But now that you see, it's targeting like a bunch of different people. And I want to tell it like, hey, only target homeowners. I don't care about renters, hobbyists, landlords, and estate planners for now. Maybe that's something we'll do in the future, but for now, focus on that one person. Then we're not building a mobile app. We'll just do web. And so for those who are not familiar, when you install an app on your phone, that's a mobile app that you get from the App Store or Google Play Store, versus when you go to a URL and you still see it on your cell phone, but it's in a browser window. That's a web app. Now, web app can also be opened on the desktop or mobile, whereas mobile apps, chances are they only work on mobile, although there are some ways you can get mobile apps on desktop now. But generally speaking, if you're building a brand new app, Lovable only lets you build a web app. So we're stuck on web, even if we wanted to have our app start with a mobile app. But generally speaking, it's good to build on web first anyway, because you get access to Android users, Apple users, desktop users, Windows, Mac. So whatever platform they're on, everyone has a browser, which means they'll be able to access your app. So we'll build a web app. So I'll tell it that as well. Also, we are only building a web app. And then I'll say also only focus on homeowners for now. So those are a few corrections I made based on what it gave me. It had a bunch of features like OCR and all that stuff. Like chances are we won't be able to get to it today, but it's good to keep that in mind for future. Another cool thing that was part of the prompt was, this is one of the things we always get tripped up by, is like, how do I price this? Is this a free app or should I charge for it? And so at least I get some idea of, this is not going to be an app that someone pays $50 a month for. Chances are it's a useful but low utility, something that I could probably do in an Excel. So if I am that organized, so maybe this is a nice to have. So chances are it'll be like a low priced product. But if you're a homeowner for multiple properties, or if you are one of those landlords who have tenants and you want to also keep track of the inventory that you gave to the tenant before they took occupancy and after they leave, now you're actually making money from this inventory management system. So maybe I can charge them more. But given that I told it it's only for homeowners, chances are we'll probably stick with like personal plus plan or something like that. Again, this is just you're reading through and thinking about these things as you're going through. I'm not gonna bother like correcting it too much. It came up with a stack, and if none of this makes any sense, that's totally fine. And that's the whole reason why we're using Lovable. So I'll also tell it that I am using Lovable. So don't worry about the tech stack. So that's something I gave it. So now it'll just quickly summarize everything that, I guess it'll change a few things based on what I said. Okay, so to me, like this is looking fairly good. And again, like it changed it a little bit. So I went to a freemium model where you have maybe 50 items and no export, no reminders. And then in the pro, you get unlimited items and it's $5 to $7, and then maybe an annual plan. So just by telling it who my target audience is, it did its thing and made sure that the pricing now makes more sense. Okay, I think we're good here. We are ready to get started to build in Lovable. But one thing that I've seen with Lovable is that if you go in smaller steps, it does a much better job than if you go and here's the whole app and go build it. So even though like we have, if you see here, yeah, these key features, smart item entry, room-based organization, document upload, maintenance reminders, insurance mode, search plus filter, sharing, like there's a bunch of stuff here. There's no way Lovable will be good at me sending one message and it's just building the whole thing in one go. So what I now want to do is break it up. And so generally speaking, if you're building an internal tool, you can actually skip this step. But if you are building something that you're sending to like other people, or you want other people to use it other than you, then I think this is a good idea, which is we want to create a marketing, like public facing app. So I'll show you what that really means. So someone has a question, is Gud Prompt vibe coded? So the definition of vibe coding is evolving, but if I were to say how much code was written by me versus AI, it's probably 80-20, 20% my code, 80% AI code, but it's not built with a tool like Lovable. It's built with something called Cursor, where you as a programmer can still see all the code. You can see when AI makes a mistake. You can tell it to change things. You can go in and change things yourself. There's another tool now called Claude Code that I'm trying out these days. And so that percentage is shifting. So now probably it's 90% AI written code and 10% mine. And I'm getting to a point where it's probably going to be like 2% my code and 98% AI written. But with Good Prompt, because I started in the beginning of the year, still I would say 20% was written by hand. Okay. Any questions, anyone? Okay, so I wanted to explain what a website versus a web app is. Let's see. Okay, let's actually go to Superbase. So let me open it in a new superbase.com. So when I go to superbase.com, by the way, this is a database as a service application. What that really means is like they take care of the database, so you don't have to, or as a developer, you don't have to. But when I go to superbase.com, where I land, this is just talking about their features. This is talking about all the things you can do. They have a bunch of these like carousels that tell you like who is using them, what other like features that they have and they're integrated with. They have a quick video on like how you can use them and so on and so forth. And then they have like documentation, how you can use this product. So what you're seeing is the website. This is not what you will use when you sign up for Superbase. This is just for them to tell you what Superbase is all about. So for most product companies, if you are selling your product to someone, first you want to just tell them what is it that we do. And then you want to build the thing that they can actually use. So this is your marketing phase, and that's your operations or the thing that you're actually going to build. So what I'm doing in this prompt is I'm saying before we build our whole fully fledged home inventory management system, let's just create a marketing website that even if I'm not ready to launch it, I can tell my friends and family and like my colleagues that, hey, I'm building this like app on the side. And by the way, you can go and check it out, like all the features I'm going to build. So that's what I'm going to do here. Good thing we have decided on the product name and we have a complete product brief. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT. And when you go scroll down all the way, there's this button to copy everything. So you can copy that all, or you can just select and go like this. So up to you, whichever way works for you. But I just clicked on that copy button, so I have everything. And it has the name House Ledger in the thing. So I'm going to first paste the brief. And I'm deleting some of the stuff that ChatGPT just added because it's not relevant. Okay, so this is my product brief here, and I'm gonna tell it the name, House Ledger. Perfect. So now you can read the entire prompt, and this is collapsed because when there is too much text, it's hard to read the prompt itself. But all I'm telling now to Lovable is that I want you to create a landing page and the authentication system. Again, I could have split even these into two parts. I thought might as well just do two things in the same message. So I'm going to build a landing page that talks about everything this app is going to do. And then I'm going to build an authentication system. And again, this is only required if you're building a product that I want to use, and let's say my neighbor can also use. And I don't want my neighbor to be able to see my inventory, and I probably don't want to see my neighbor's inventory. Or maybe you do, but that's you. So in this case, we want an authentication system. And authentication, again, just a jargon, but it's a way for you to sign in, sign up, forgot password, reset your password, like all of those things that you do in like every app that you use today. Essentially, that whole thing is called authentication system. Okay, so I'll copy this. And now we're ready to go to Lovable. But before we do that, any questions from anyone? Is everyone following along? Everything looking good?
I just threw sorry. I just threw something over there that we don't really need a database for all the vibe coded apps. Like, for example, I have built an org chart app wherein I just upload a CSV file and that it converts it into a hierarchical org chart. So I didn't connect a database to that. It just stayed as long as I refresh the browser.
Yeah, yeah. If time permits, we can probably a quick utility later on that does what Priya you're describing. But for this one, we do need a database. Like I said, sign up to Superbase. And when you do, you will see you get a organization. So mine is called Fun Projects. And I have Lovable here. So in this box, you'll see this Superbase button at the bottom. And when I click on Add Organization, this little pop-up comes up. It will ask me to authorize Lovable to access a particular org. And so I'm going to select Fun Projects and authorize Lovable. So this might be a little place where people get tripped up. So if you are stuck or you're unable to do this, let me know. Okay, I'll assume everyone is doing well on this step. So once I have connected Superbase, you'll see my org, and then you'll see like this was a old app I was trying that's now paused, but I'm gonna create a new project. So in here, this new project, again, I'm gonna give it a name. So this is House Ledger. And you can give it a strong password. I'm just gonna give a password that is in no way strong, but I have it. And so when you do that, make sure the strong password you copy and save it in a text file or somewhere in your notes for now. But usually what I like to do is save it in my password manager where it's saved encrypted. If this is an app that's going to go out and you're going to make money from it and charge people, chances are that this is one of those security risks that you might encounter where your database password is not strong enough. So anyone with this access to this database, they can delete your entire, in this case, your houses, they can't delete your actual house, but at least yeah, the inventory of your house can be deleted by like malicious actor. Project name, I believe you can change, yes. Are you facing an issue that you're not able to change, Amy?
I'm not able to how to change it.
Okay, so here's what I would do. Just delete that project and create a new one if you're just starting out. I think with with Superbase, you can create up to 2 projects for free. So you can always just create a new project right now and leave that one alone to delete it.
Okay, I will.
Cool. Okay, so once I have done this, I'm gonna click create new project. Okay, so I'm gonna say not now for this. So this is Superbase. We'll get back to it a little bit later, but honestly, we don't need to worry about it right now. Because when I go back to my Lovable, I'm gonna go Fund Projects and select House Ledger. So before I even typed anything, I want to make sure that you guys have this selected. Your whatever the project name is, select that here. So click the name of your organization and then House Ledger or whatever the name of your project is. Cool. And now I'll go back to my prompt again, copy, and I'm gonna paste it. So you can, as people are doing that, I'll go over the prompt, what I'm telling Lovable to do. So what I'm telling Lovable to do is, first of all, read my product brief. Then I want to design a clean, modern landing page that clearly communicates my unique value, has a prominent call to action. It has an authentication system, email, password, login, password reset, and basic user profile. Then I asked it to create a mini dashboard inside, which I'll explain what dashboard is. But think of it as like the part of the app that's hidden behind that username password. So in most apps, like right now we are in Lovable. So this is the dashboard. This is where I'm logged in and I can see my project overview. I can see my orgs. So this stuff no one else can access. Only I can access. And so that's what I'm calling a dashboard in this language. And then some technical constraints. I wanted to use modern responsive design principles. I want it to be mobile first. So the difference between mobile first and a mobile app is that a mobile first app, and you might have faced this, sometimes you go to a website on your phone and it just looks weird. It's the text is cut off, it's going out to the right. When you scroll, like it doesn't work properly. So those are apps that weren't built for cell phones or mobile screens. They were built for desktop. And so they probably look great on a desktop. It's just they didn't make it mobile friendly. So what I'm telling Lovable here is think about this because I don't have a mobile app, but chances are people will access this app while they're on the go. So I just want them to be able to use this app even when they're on their cell phones. And then implement basic security best practices for authentication. And then create reusable components where possible. So this is just because I'm an engineer, I know the benefit of a reusable component. But what that really means is, let's say this is the app that I'm building. So you see the search bar at the top, this appears on every page. So there's no point for Lovable to create this search bar for every page that we're going to build. Just make it once and then reuse it everywhere. So that's what I'm asking it to do when I say reusable components over here. So anyway, that's just like a prompt that you don't need to worry about too much. Just copy that, go to Lovable. Once everything is connected, paste it here, and you can double check things here. And you can still edit it, by the way. Just because I have that prompt in Good Prompt doesn't mean you have to use it as is. And that's the benefit of copying and pasting, because this is just text. I can say, don't use reusable components. Like it's up to me, whatever I want to do. So now that this is done, I'm going to hit send. And this is like where it's a little magical. So this thing should open up for you. You have your prompt, the whole thing that you gave it on the left. And then now it's like spinning up its preview so it can show you what it's building. And you'll see on the left, it thought for 14 seconds, okay, I'll create a professional, trustworthy landing page. And it's writing a bunch of code. So one of the things that you'll notice is sometimes it will stop and ask you for permission. So all this code, you don't need to worry what it is actually doing. But anytime it's writing something to Superbase, which is your database, and like I said, database is a very critical part of your app. It has all of the information that someone sees. So Lovable is a little cautious. They want to make sure that you don't, it doesn't write any code that by mistake deletes everything that you have in that app, or sorry, in that project. So it's asking me to click on apply. If you see you're stuck here and you're like, now what do I do? There's nothing I don't see. It's just white screen. Just scroll to the bottom. You might see that button. So I'll click on apply changes.
Pranay,
And
hi.
yeah,
One
yeah.
more. Can you please paste the prompt in the chat? I just try to follow what you're doing.
Okay. Here you go. Oh, looks like this prompt is too large. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to put this in a document and then share it over there.
Quick question, Pranay. So I actually forgot what you mentioned about 5 credit. Is it like the context size that we are sending?
Yeah, so they don't really fully tell us what credit actually means. Maybe there's a document I haven't read, but in the past, a credit was one message. So like the message that I just sent, that would count as one credit. I don't know what it means now, because what they say is a credit is defined based on how much work the agent does to build your app. So if I send one message and it actually does 3 actions, it might count as 3 credits. So honestly, for me, the only way to find out is to try. So you just ask it to build. At some point, it'll say you ran out of credits. And then you pause that day and you come next day and then you continue. And you'll see, oh, you have 5 new credits today.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so I have this document. I'm going to share it with anyone with the link. And so I'm pasting
Hey,
that.
Pranay, I have a question.
Sure.
If Lovable doesn't do what you want it to do, does that still count as one credit or it wouldn't count that?
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yeah. So there is one case where it doesn't count, which is if it Lovable will automatically detect that you have an error on the page. And so if there is an error on the page, then chances are that you can like Lovable will say, okay, that doesn't count. I'm going to fix that for you. And which was like really cool. Like there are other app builders out there, and Lovable was the very first company that took that approach. And so I thought it was really good because many times I was using other app builders and the AI would make a mistake and the product doesn't even work, but all my credits are gone. So at least you will have a working thing. It might not be doing what you asked it to do, or it might be doing something a little wonky, but at least it's like something working that you get. And again, like these things, like the more you practice, the better you get at it. So I would say take full advantage of their free credits as much as possible. Okay, so again, it's asking me for permission, so apply changes. So I'm gonna click on apply changes one more time, and then it's going ahead. So this right inside the white area is your, like where you'll see the preview. And so we're just waiting for it to go ahead. So actually you see, it looks like there was a function security issue that it found and it fixed on its own. So it's editing this index.css file. One cool thing about Lovable is you don't see the code, honestly. You just see your conversation with AI and you see the product. But if you're a developer and you're curious, what is it it's actually writing? There's this code mode up top. You can click on that and you can see all the files it has written. So it's amazing that I just gave it that long-winded prompt, but just text, and it wrote all of this code for me. that I don't need to worry about. So I'm going to just turn this off because most people don't care. So it's telling me what it's doing one step at a time. So now it's generating a professional hero image and creating an authentication system and landing page. And then it's creating the authentication context and landing page. And while it's doing that, I'll take you to Superbase and show you what's happening in Superbase. So if I go here, I'll Command R or refresh. And so this sidebar on the left, it's collapsed, but if you hover over those icons, you'll see those. So click on Table Editor. And so in Table Editor, you'll see there's a table called Profiles. And so when you click on that, you'll see it has ID, user ID, full name, created at, updated at. So this is your database. This is, I always explain database is like a bunch of Excel files. And so this is the Excel file where your user's information is going to be stored. So we haven't signed up any users yet, so it all looks empty for now. But as we use the app, you'll see, first off, more Excel files or more tables will appear. And then each of those Excel files or tables will have text. Will have like rows and like data that we can see. So one benefit of Superbase and using that with Lovable is that in case something goes wrong and you're like, this user is asking me to change their name and I didn't build the feature yet to change people's names, I can just go into this Superbase and edit the name of the person directly in the database. Most probably it's a little daunting for people who are non-technical, but I'm glad like Superbase makes it fairly easy for you to make these like simple edits directly in the back end if you don't have the feature yet on the front end. And again, back end, front end, I'm using those terms. Back end is your database. Front end is what people see. So the user interface or the UI that we are seeing over here. So it's still going at it. It's on. Now I'll generate the professional hero image. Now I'll create the authentication context. Now I'll update the app. And there you go. So now we have at least we're starting to see what our app looks like. So we got our name. It came up with this product logo as well on its own. We have a pricing page. It created these buttons for all the things that we're going to have in the future on the product. So now it's given me a summary here. So professional design system, landing page, authentication system, dashboard. So yeah, super cool. Okay, so that was, imagine like just one prompt. We did a bunch of like planning, but just with that one prompt, now I have a full-fledged app here. Okay, so I'm gonna show you two things. First of all, you can actually interact with this app right here. You can click on Start Your Ledger, and it took you to this auth page that I can enter my email and password. I can click on Forgot Password. That's working. I can click on Sign In. I don't know if it's working, but at least I can see it. I can click on the name of the app and I can go back. So that's all I wanted it to build. So now let me test the actual sign up. And just in case like you're curious, like it's not just that you can only use it in this window. You can click on this little icon here, open preview in a new tab, and clicking on that, it opens up your preview of your app in a full screen mode. Everything making sense so far? Anyone stuck somewhere that I can help? Good question, Ravi. I think they were launching a feature to download code without connecting to GitHub, but I think you have to connect to GitHub if you want access to the code. You can see all the code here, so maybe that's one way that you can like just download, copy paste each file, but I don't know if that's the best way. But if you click on the name of the project here, first of all, you can see your credits. So when we started today, we were at 100.7, whatever that dot means. Right now we are at 94.7. So even though I've only actually typed one long message, I've used up like 6 credits right now. So if you are on one of those free plans, chances are you're already over the daily limit. But I'm using my monthly credits right now.
And that answers Rosie's question, I think.
Yeah.
At
But
least
like,
an
yeah,
idea
like
how
generally
many-
speaking, imagine when was the last time you were able to build an app even this far along in 1 hour, right? So the fact that you can do that for free is bonkers. But I'll go into settings just to go over a few things here. So project settings is how Lovable is tracking all the things that you're doing here. So we will do a few things towards the end of the session today, but generally, oh, here you go. So 3 messages I have sent. So every time, so first I entered a message, then I clicked, I think it asked for permission twice. So I think all of those 3 actions that I did counted as 3 messages. And then 2 times just AI did some editing. And so that also counted. So overall, I think we've used 5 messages as an overview for this particular project. So it's good to know any given project, how many credits did I end up using to build a project, which is cool. We'll talk about domains, analytics, all of that stuff later on. But this is, I think, new, where if you have certain instructions that you want Lovable to follow while you're building a product, you can enter them here. And so instructions could be like, don't ever use the word amazing in this whole project, or use all of the copy that you're going to write on the landing page or anywhere else, use like a 5th grade level. So things that you want Lovable to, just know. And so you don't have to repeat yourself every time you're sending a new message to update something. And they have some ideas here to like types of knowledge that you can enter. Then you have the plan people, you can add other people. So this is really good as well. If you have a co-founder and you're like, I'm building something, but I also want them to have access to it so they can continue the work. I don't know how credits work in that case. I'm guessing both people get 5. So you could do something like, I have 5. Then you go to your co-founder and they use their 5. And then next day you do the same. So maybe that's a way of getting more credits. And then, yeah, Superbase and GitHub, you can connect here. So for those who are not familiar with GitHub, you get to a point where you want, let's say, a developer to help you build this app. Chances are developers are not, they can just write code. So they find it frustrating that I have to like tell AI to make a small change. So as an example, if I just wanted to change like this title. So if you are a developer, you can just go into the code and change that. I don't need to use one of my credits or my AI credits to make a simple change like that. For something like that, you might want to connect what's called GitHub, where you can store all your code, and then those developers can access that and update. And Lovable automatically picks up any changes your developers make to GitHub. So you don't have to worry about whether something is on GitHub and not here. So it'll just, as long as it's in the main area of GitHub, everything will get automatically sent. Okay, so as people are like going along and catching up to this, I'll move on to my next prompt, which in some ways is the last prompt, but also this is the beginning of actual feature set. Oh, actually, you know what? We didn't test it. So let's go to here and I'm gonna get started. And so I'll create with my email, I'll give it username, password, and I'll sign in. But obviously I'm not signed in, so I'll go sign up. So that was a good test that my sign in is working. That if someone tries to log in with wrong credentials, it tells you that the login credentials are wrong. So I have a question. Is it possible to collaborate on multiple projects simultaneously? Yes, it is. If I go in here, you see this is my project dropdown. If I go to dashboard, we have like other projects here that you can add different people to, and you can go back to that project. And so if you shared this project with someone, they should see that project under their homepage as well. Okay, so yeah, we were testing this. Okay, so I have my login credentials. Perfect. So first of all, I created an account and then it actually sent me an email. So let me open up my email and I'm going to pause my screen just a little bit as I open up the email. Okay. So this is my email and it says Superbase auth over here. Confirm your sign up. I get this. I can click on this link to confirm. But since I'm using a different browser, I'm going to copy this link. And generally speaking, you want to open the link in the same browser you're working in. For most cases, it just works. So when I click on this, not now, this is my dashboard. And look at that. Even though I didn't really tell it to build any of these features and none of these buttons actually work, but it built a inside view, which I'm calling a dashboard of the product. How cool is that? So I can add item, create room, upload documents, set reminders. So obviously none of this works, but I'm like super impressed with just one prompt. I have all of this with 6 credits. Okay, now let's go back to our final prompt. So this, like I said, Lovable works best if you give it chunk size, like small chunks to work on instead of a whole product to build in one go. So what I did here is, again, because I'm not a product manager, I don't know how to write code. I have no idea what is the best way to even break up a large product into smaller, what are called user stories. So if you are in the same boat as I am, you can use this prompt to ask AI to help you break that thing up. So what I'm going to do here is I will go again into ChatGPT. And one more time, I'll copy my product brief. And honestly, you don't have to do this again if you're using the same, actually it's one word. If you're using the same chat, but I like to use different chats for every message. So I'm going to put this in our handy document here as well. Okay. So this is the prompt I'm going to use for this step. So I've copied it. I'm going to go to ChatGPT. And again, I'm going to start a new chat. I'm going to paste it. I'm using 4.0, but I have my user story. Sorry, I have my product brief in here. So I'm just going to delete some of the stuff that I had from the product brief. Actually, let me do that in that thing as well. So, okay, now I have done that and I'll send it. So while it's doing that, let me walk you through what this prompt does. So what I said is your role is an agile product story decomposition specialist. Now, I don't know if that's a real role in the world, but I'm sure someone has this as part of their job. So what that really means is you are someone who is very adept at agile product building strategies, which is like a fancy term of saying be open to change. When someone says, I don't like this feature, give me a new feature, you should be able to do that. And so these days, all software is built in that way. Every product, you get new features every day. No one comes to the world one day and says, here's a multi-million-dollar product that we built in like last 7 years, and now we're launching it. Most people launch incrementally, and as they get users, learn from them and build new features. So that's what I want AI to act as, someone who likes to build things in smaller chunks. and then get feedback, and then build future steps. So here are the steps I want it to follow. First of all, I want it to carefully analyze the entire brief, then decompose each one into logical and incremental user stories. So a user story is something that, if I were to say that in English to you, if you were a user of this product, it should give you some value. Like, you should walk away with that. If you perform that action, you should walk away with something of value. As an example, a good user story will be, I enter the name and the make and model of my refrigerator, and then anytime in the future, I can go back and search for this refrigerator and see it. That's a full user story, because as a user of your product, if I can only enter but not search or never access this refrigerator, I didn't get any value from your product. I just entered something, and now what do I do? Nothing. So I don't have anything to benefit from it. So a good user story will be something that a user takes some action in your product and they benefit from it. And of course, in the ideal world, I can search, I can add reminders, I can delete, I can move and assign it to a different household if I move my refrigerator from one house to the other. So in the ideal, I should be able to do 20 things with it. But a good user story will say, okay, what would be the one thing that I get value from? And in my case, as long as I can enter something and search, that's a good user story. So I don't really know what AI will come up with, but I'm telling it to think through about these nuances. And so I don't have to. So that's what we have done in this prompt. And so here's Epic 1, foundational setup, user auth, and basic structure. So user registration and login. So as we know, we already built that. So we can skip on that. Create and manage rooms. Okay, so so if I were to read this quickly, it's also telling me like some technical stuff that Lovable understands. I don't need to worry about. But when it comes to create and manage rooms, so as a user, I want to create and manage rooms in my house so that I can organize items by physical space. Here's the criteria. User can add, edit, and delete rooms displayed as a list or grid. And then here's some details. So what I'm going to do before I move on to Epic 2, I'm simply going to copy just this part. Oh, actually, I can't. So let me take this and put it in Google Sheet. Okay, here. So we'll go from the top. I can delete some of this stuff. So we're skipping over user story 1, and we're going to user story 2, or 1.2 rather. So I'll take that part and I'll copy. You can copy all the way here, but I'm just going to copy till here. Copy that, and I'll go into Lovable, which is here, and I'll paste it. And there you go. Okay. Again, I don't need to actually worry about how it's going to implement this. One of the things, the reason why we have it in here is you might read this and say, I don't want rooms. I want actually floors and rooms. So you might say, before I get to rooms, let me create floors. And then before I get to floors, maybe it's like buildings, because this is like my user, like the people that I'm building for are like building owners or like property managers, not really a homeowner. So whatever AI gives you, you don't have to take it blindly. You can apply your like thoughts and what is it that you want to see in your product and change these user stories. The good thing is like AI is giving you a good starting point. Any questions so far, or anyone stuck at this point? No? Let's see what Lovable is up to. Okay, so again, anytime you're adding a brand new feature, it needs to make some changes to Superbase. And whenever that happens, I have to click on apply changes. So I'm going to say that.
There is a question for you, Pranay, in the chat. Are you able to
Are you able to import
frameworks?
frameworks and code blocks? That's a good question. I have tried it before where I've said, someone mentioned like they're using V0. So if you're using another AI tool, and by the way, I'll show you one cool thing that you can do while this is happening. So there is a product called 21st.dev. So this is essentially a repository of components that people have already built. So there will come a time once you get good at building a few products, you'll be like, you know what? I want my homepage to look like this. You see this like subtle animation that happened, and I liked how this color is like gradient color and all that stuff. And you're like, I want to use this. So these guys, 21st Dev, they have, I don't know, hundreds of these components. And they're like grouped by backgrounds or like call to actions and comparisons. So if you want to compare one thing over the other, like this one, where I'm comparing like this type of code with another type of code. So maybe you've seen a component here that you really, and you're like, I just want to give this to Lovable. So these guys have these guys have this button. You can copy prompt. And when you copy that, you can actually take it to Lovable and say, you can take it to Lovable here and say, hey, use this component to build me that whatever hero image or like the component that you saw there. So I really like this. And by the way, there is a app Vibe. So this is a product that I have built. It's called vibecoder.me. So if you go to tools, I have compiled a list of bunch of tools that people are using for vibe coding. So like AI app builders, like we're using Lovable today, but there is bold.new, Firebase Studio, Cursor, V0. So there are a bunch of these. And as I find more, like I keep adding here. And when it comes to design tools, this is where you'll find like Figma and like those tools that we talked about. And then I think I have, UI libraries. So this is where you have that 21st dev that you can find. So Eternity is another one, Motion, fancy components. So these are places where you can borrow components and just tell AI that here, use this. Don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just use this component. And even though you don't understand the code, you just like the look and feel. So you can do that. So I'll just post a link to vibecoder.me in case anyone wants to use this in the chat as well. Hey, Rosie, go ahead.
Yeah. So I have a question regarding, because we as developers, we want to have a certain standard for, okay, it's using React, this version, and it's using the components from this specific library, for example, Material UI. So that we are able to look at the code later and it's not like a total black box to us. We can make changes. So as a developer, how do you have all these instructions set up? Like in the back end where you were showing the...
Yeah, so that would be a good place to put it. So in your knowledge, you can tell it always use material design or always use ShadCN for components. Or I like to separate out my pages directory from components. Or I like to follow like Atom, like the Atom where you have this Atom, tissue, organism. Like you can structure your components in a hierarchy. So like all of those things like that you want Lovable to follow, you can mention here if you're a developer and you wanna. These things are important for maintainability after the fact. So I would say if most people, if you don't understand what we're talking about, honestly, it doesn't matter. At some point, when you start making money, so let's say we build this and 22 of you here go home, sign up for this, and then you tell others and those others tell others, and suddenly we have 1,000 users of this app. And now I'm like, oh, I need to scale this app. Chances are I'm making enough money at that point that I can either find a co-founder who's technical or I can find a developer who I can pay to build this app. And then they will take this app and chances are they'll anyway do a bunch of rewrite and work on this. So if you're an early founder, don't worry about any of this. Honestly, even me as a technical person, I often let AI do whatever it wants to do initially. When I have a little bit of traction, like I mentioned with Gud Prompt, then I go back and like refactor code. And I haven't shipped a new feature in 2 months now because I'm just like making minor tweaks just to make the things that have already AI was built and people love. I'm just tweaking that as I go along. So anyway, it looks like Lovable is done here. In order to test this, I'm going to go back to my app, the preview, and I'll just refresh. So there you go. When I click on create rooms, now I can see no rooms yet. So I can add a room. Oh, look at that. It also gave me like a few options that are common. So I'll just say kitchen. So there you go. Now I have a kitchen. And I can add a room, living room. Perfect. It tells me like there are 0 items right now. So cool, isn't it? All right. So that was our user story 1.2. So now let's go to item inventory and we'll copy this. And I'll say copy and I'll paste that here. So I'll just give it a quick read. As a user, I want to add an item with basic metadata to a room so that I can begin tracking my household items. User can input item name, category, description, purchase date. Item is assigned to an existing room. Item must show on the room's items list. Some data structure, so on and so forth. Okay, so I'll just send that. And if you want, you're curious, you can see the files it's generating. So we have components, we have pages over here. This is some Superbase connection stuff. So yeah, speaking of Superbase, so earlier we only had profiles and it was empty, but now I have my name and my user ID, which again is gibberish, but it's something that user can keep track of. Or sorry, your app can keep track of individual users, even if they have the same name. And then rooms is those 2 rooms that I added. And as you can see, this room is connected to that user ID. So we only have 1 user right now, and that user has 2 rooms. So we have profiles and rooms as 2 tables right now. And so now let me go back to this mode. Again, Lovable always confirms it's making database changes. So I'll say apply. Let it think. And in the meantime, let's go to, there you go. So now we have items and it's empty right now. And so this is like when there was only 1 Excel or 1 table, it was fairly clear. Okay, I have like rows and columns. Everyone is familiar with that. When we had 2, I mentioned to you like profiles can have multiple rooms. So 1 profile, Pranay, has 2 rooms right now. And now we have items. So just thinking logically, a room can have multiple items. And obviously each of those items will also belong to the person because person owns rooms, own items. So it's like we can see a hierarchy building over here. So the cool thing is Superbase gives us a neat view of what this looks like to us. So we have the profiles table, the items table, and the rooms table. And it's not showing the user ID linked, but that's another link we actually have. And rooms ID is linked to the room ID over here. But the reason I think this is not linking is because profiles and rooms are actually using this user ID column, which is stored in an auth schema, which Superbase just provides. So we don't need to worry about all of this. We were talking about like this is the users table. we were talking about forgot password and all of that stuff. So those columns we don't see, but actually your app needs to keep track of all of this stuff behind the scenes. So when did they confirm, if they confirmed or not? If we had a phone field, it would have shown that here as well. So these are like some hidden tables that we don't see. But when I go to public, these are the tables that we are creating as we go along. And we have full control over these tables, and we don't have any control over those auth tables that I showed. But this kind of visual representation is really helpful for you to see all the things that are being added to your app. Okay, any questions? Anything? I see a few messages here. Yeah, so good question. So you can actually edit code right here, and we will probably do that just to show you. Okay, so it looks like there was an error, and this, whenever this pop up at the bottom here, show up, when you click this try to fix button, sometimes Lovable will automatically try to fix, but if it does not, you can click on this button. This is what I was talking about where Lovable doesn't charge you for a credit. So I'll just click that button, and it has this little pop-up here. We didn't talk about chat mode because we're actually using ChatGPT for that. And actually, I'm probably not using this new agent mode, which is new in Lovable. But in either case, looks like we're making good progress.
Hey, Pranay, I have a question. Building on what Debarati just asked, if in case you want to edit something, how do you do it? So in
Yeah.
my experience, I have used prompting, and that's when I consumed a lot of credits. Will it help if you can copy the code, give it to ChatGPT, ask it to identify issues, and then bring it back over here?
You could, but honestly, I won't worry about optimizing on your credit usage. Like, I see it this way. If you ever had to build an app like this, where we are today would have costed you thousands of dollars already. And so the fact that you can build it for $20, I think is phenomenal. And so I wouldn't worry about, and that's one thing that I tried a long time ago. I was like, and this is when Lovable used to charge per message. So what I said was, what if I wrote one message that has the entire feature set for the app? Because my mind was like, oh, let me save on these messages to save money. And what would happen is I got a crappy product, it wouldn't work, and it got me frustrated. So I said, okay, my sanity is more important than $20. So let me just pay $20, break it down into these smaller chunks where we're making good progress. It's making like fewer errors. So it looks like now it's working. So anyway, my advice, just prompt it. But if you understand, like I'll give you an example. So let's say this is something you want to change. Now you have two options. One is that I can click on this edit button. When you click on that and you hover over these, you see these rectangles show up. And let's say I explicitly wanted to change this heading. So I click on this, you see when the blue box is hovering over both the white area and the blue area. I can hover over that and I can just ask for a quick change right here. So I can say, this is not legible. Can you fix that? So it's been bugging me that this blue on blue is not very readable. So I told it that. And so when I do this, it's only going to go to that one little thing and make a change instead of going through like your entire code base and trying to make a change, like finding, like I would have to say your home's digital ledger is not legible. Can you change it? So then it's to find in the code and then update it versus it's okay. So apparently it made some changes and it added some shadows, which again are not super helpful. Hey, Kirtana, go for it.
Hey, the same thing. Can you make that page, that particular area accessible according to the AA standards? I'll just send you that, maybe. Instead of saying, can you make it more legible? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Good idea.
So I'm going to select that. Hey, Rosie, go ahead.
What are the other options that it's showing when you have the header or P paragraph tag on? It shows like a edit button when you like select the digital ledger, for example.
It looks like I made it worse. But yeah, so these H1, whatever, these are tags behind the scenes, what are actually being used.
Yes, but when you have the small pop-up where you write the prompt, right next to it, you have a few other options.
Okay, yeah.
So can you like actually change the content here?
Yeah. So if
Okay.
I wanted to change so it looks like I can even update styles. So I can make it, click on advanced, go to code. So this is
But color, I think like we can change right here.
Yeah, because it uses something called Tailwind, where the color, you see this brand blue light, BG clip text. So it has like it's giving me a few options I can choose. But for most people, that's too technical, but you could just go to code. And so right here, now I can see the whole thing. And then I can go, so instead of BG gradient, I just go BG, sorry, not BG. So the text is this transparent drop shadow, all that, so I can make it text white. If I save that.
Hey, Pranay,
Yeah.
can I take a screenshot of what's not working? In this case, I want to change the color of that text and send that in the prompt.
Yeah,
That
you could
show
totally.
what I want to change.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
So I could have taken the screen. Well, now I have fixed it, but if I wanted to, I could have taken that screenshot, saved it to my desktop, and then I can drag and drop here. But yeah, like I think mostly this edit and select something is better than that. And then the other thing is we're stuck on the homepage here because all of my signing in and stuff I was doing on a different tab, like over here. So if you have issues on a different tab, like you can actually sign in right here as well. And so, not now, okay. And so I could select things even on the authenticated part of the app as well. And same thing like we were talking about, like here, I can just edit this. So instead of your, I want to say my. So I can just save that. And it's just a text change. This is something new because in the past I would have to say, can you make your inventory overweight to my, and I wasted a credit. So there are like some things here that allow you to save on credits. Okay, so we did create room. Now we have like rooms. Now I can edit a room and change stuff. I don't have any items yet. So now I can add an item. So let's say fridge. It's in the kitchen. It's appliances. Makes things cool. Purchase date, we just bought it. An estimated value, let's say it was secondhand, $500. And so add item. So now I have a fridge, which is appliance, and it makes things cool. Okay, so it looks like this is great. This is working. I go in here. I click on items. That doesn't work. Rooms works, but items is not working. There's no reports yet, no reminders yet. So we're like almost 2 hours in. If anyone is feeling like tired, whatever, stretch a little bit and come back. But feel free to. What we're going to do next is a little bit of like same of what we're doing right now, which is just adding a few new features. But soon after that, I'll show you just a way of like publishing and other things like that. So let's add one more feature. So going back to our stories, upload and attach documents. Maybe I'll do that later. Okay, let's do this, search and filter items. So I'll click copy, go to Lovable. Everything is working now. I'll just paste this. And by the way, you can also add other things that before you go on to the next story. So as an example, we don't have a room page yet, which maybe it's not something we mentioned. But what I would like to see that I can click on a room and see the items that are only in that room. So that's not something, it was one of our features. So I'll just ask it. Can you add a room page?
Also, I don't think like we had an option to assign like fridge to a room. Did
Yeah, that's what. So we don't have a page just to see a room. So I'm going to ask it to add a room page. I want the ability to see all the items in a room. Okay. So you like, although I am recommending this kind of workflow where AI kind of wrote these user stories for us, just use your judgment. If there is something that you see here that you don't like or you want to change, you can always just ask it to make those changes for you. So it's adding like something called a room card, or sorry, it read the room card. Then it's adding a page for room, and then probably we'll have the ability to view rooms. And as you see, like we're adding stuff on this page, but maybe the home page should also show like my rooms and my inventory overview. So I can even say, hey, inventory overview on the home page. And I can type my next message as it's building the previous one. Can you add the recent rooms and items in a nice, visually appealing way to the my inventory overview in the home page? And so I'm literally just describing what I would like to see. So it's done with that part. And I can ask it to make these changes while I go and check it out. So I'm here now, like I can click on a room. And then in the kitchen, I see my fridge. In the living room, there are no items, but I can add an item. So cool. So as it's building that, we'll go, and I was going to build search. Okay. So now let's go to home. And sometimes if it doesn't work, try refreshing. So it looks like it's still not working. Okay, so it's still editing actually. There you go. So now I see my recent rooms and recent items. Super cool. How do you guys like it so far? Anyone would like to buy it for $5 a month? Or you can pay Lovable $20 and just build it for yourself. So I guess my business model is not very well thought out. Okay, so I think that did it for that. So let's add the search feature next. Cool. Nice. Oh, and we have some quick stats here that we can look at. Any features that someone else is thinking about that they want to see that we can try? just post it in the chat if you would like to see us build any feature.
I would say like sending an email reminder.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I think we'll need to build reminders first and then add a sort of email sending feature. And that's also like a good segue into there are certain capabilities that we have because we connected to Superbase. And so sending an email is one of those capabilities that you actually need a third party to handle for you. So we take it for granted that we get all these like emails. So from Luma, you got probably a text message and an email today. And we're like, oh, so I can add email functionality to my product. And oftentimes what that requires you to do is just like we signed up for Superbase, that requires you to also sign up for an email provider, which if I just search email providers, you will find a bunch of these like Proton, Mailer, Send, and there's a Reddit for
SendGrid as well.
yeah, MailChimp, SendGrid, yeah. So there are a bunch of these providers. So chances are, if I asked Lovable to add that feature, it would say either it'll ask me what provider to use or it has a preferred provider. And it'll say, can you go and sign up for that thing? Give me these credentials so that I can connect to it. So with the interest of time, I'll skip on that, but let's build reminders next. Okay, so it looks like search is working. So if I click on search, doesn't seem to work. Okay. So that button doesn't work. If I go to rooms, okay, so I'll ask it to make this button work. So I'll go here and say this button, make this button launch our search. So I'll enter that. So this is neat that I can select. So in the previous example, I selected a component and said, change it. And in this case, I said, this button is the one that should launch search. So I don't know where it implemented search, but I can't access it. So I just pointed it to it. Another thing I could have done is, again, click on edit and selected the whole header. So in this case, we already had a search button. But if I didn't, I could have selected the whole header and then said, can you add a search button in this area? And then it knows, oh, okay, I need to add it in this like header for someone to be able to launch it. So it looks like it's done. I'll deselect edit mode. Just refresh for good measure. And there you go. So now when I click search, I can search. Well, I only have one item, but looks like our search is working. And I can filter by room, filter by category. Perfect. Okay, so then let's do a I don't know where's oh here, maintenance reminders. So I'll copy this part and go in here and paste. So as a user, I want to create reminders for maintenance tasks on items so that I can stay ahead of home upkeep. System stores a reminder with them, with item, displays reminders on dashboard. There are some technical notes. So it has something like ability to send notification emails. I'm going to let it stay and see what Lovable implements. Okay, perfect. All right, so maybe Lovable has something like an email feature, but we'll see what comes up. So again, first, because it's a brand new feature and we don't have a place to save a reminder. So first it's creating. So now we have done this for a few times. So let me walk you through what this actually is doing. So create table reminder. So it's creating a reminders table, and there's a bunch of like security policies it's creating. And then I can say, okay, that looks good. By the way, right now, if I share this link with you guys, which is my preview. So you see it starts with preview-house ledger launchpad. I want you to try opening it. Chances are it's not gonna open. So if anyone wants to try it, then let me know.
It does open.
Okay, it opens. Cool. So that's a preview link. And the difference between preview and published would be that if I'm making these changes, so let's say we haven't published yet, but let's say I publish this app and real users are actually starting to use it. Or in my case, my wife is starting to use this. And now I make some changes. I don't want to have something break for my wife who's actually using this thing and relies on it to look for items. What I want to do is like iterate on something, make some changes, try it out, and then once it works, then publish it. So the preview link is for me to try out these experiments, whereas the published link will be something that real users can use. So you at least have these two environments, is what they're called. One for you to test and fix things or update new features on, and then the other one is for like real users to use. The only problem is right now, both of those are connected to the same database, right? Like we didn't connect like two different Superbases. So the only thing you have to be careful about if you're making changes that are making changes to your database, then something that real users are using could break. When you start adding features, just when it says I'm gonna make this change, just be careful of what this could mean for existing users. And if you're unsure, then just tell it like, hey, can you make sure that the published app never breaks? So that's something probably that can go in your knowledge and instructions where you're like always make changes that don't break what's already published. And so that's just something like you have to be careful about things. If you said, oh, we don't want rooms anymore, so let's delete that. Now, if you delete rooms, chances are all the items that were in those rooms also get deleted. And so people in the real world using your app could lose all of their data. So again, just be careful when you're removing things or asking AI to remove stuff. Hey, Rosie, yeah, go ahead.
Like we have version control for GitHub. Do we have some capability like this within Lovable where we can see like,
Right.
this
Yeah,
is
great question. So you see here, it says restore. It's grayed out because this is the current version. I can go back and I'll have another one of these buttons here. I can restore to that point. So your code gets restored, but probably not database. So most of this version control is for your code, not for the database changes that you're making.
okay.
But you can roll back to a previous step. Okay,
Question for you in the chat.
sure. So currently Lovable is like they're tied to the hip with Superbase. But that's not to say if you prompt it, it might work with Google Cloud or AWS or Azure. All you would have to do is tell it explicitly, and you can again use AI to construct that prompt and say, here are the credentials. So essentially what we did when we connected Superbase, we gave Lovable access to our authentication keys or like our API keys within Superbase. So if I go to Superbase and if I go to project settings, you see this project ID. and then there are API keys. So there are these API keys. I never had to go into this area and tell Superbase, here, use this. And that's because Lovable and Superbase work together, and they're like, when I gave access to this project to Lovable, automatically fetched all of those technical details from Superbase. But if you looked at your code, all of that stuff is saved somewhere. It's like they don't expose it here, but there's an environment file which has all of these details. So I think it's somewhere in settings. Yeah, maybe not. But I remember maybe that was a different, but there is a way where you can save your secrets to connect with AWS and whatever Google Cloud. I can't remember what database service they have, but like AWS is like RDS. So if you wanted to save your data in RDS in AWS, you could tell Lovable, here are my credentials for the database, use that. But then also you might have to run these migrations yourself. Because another thing Lovable does for you is runs these database changes automatically. Whereas if you were using like an RDS, you have to, use something like Prisma to connect to your database and run migrations. And so Lovable can run it for you, but at that point, you might as well just run it yourself outside of this using GitHub. And then Lovable is only used for my changes that you're making here. Hey, Rosie, go ahead.
So the chat we do here, is it like safe to send like credentials, for example, your like key and stuff?
Yeah, before they had the Superbase connection, that was the way how you would connect Superbase to Lovable. So it used to be that you would have to create a Superbase account, get those API keys, come here and give it to Lovable. And what you can say, it will create a pop-up and you will enter your environment variables in that pop-up. And that never goes into this chat. So generally speaking, not safe to put your API keys in the chat, but you can tell it, hey, I want you to save some environment variables. And then it'll give you a pop-up. I haven't tried it for a while, but that's how it used to work before, where you can give your key a name and enter the value, and then it saves it in secrets. And then you can tell it, now use that to connect to the database, as an example.
Yeah, because we might not even want to push it to GitHub, so it should not be in the code as well. So
yeah, code
maybe,
for sure not.
Yeah,
I think Lovable takes care of that. It doesn't put things in the code. But again, you need to be careful about these security considerations. Lovable has gotten better over time, where it's making sure you're not saving anything, OpenAI API keys or anything like that in code. But yeah, just you have to be careful with those.
Yeah, I'm only having these questions because this is the first time I'm doing like vibe coding. So
Yeah,
these
yeah.
are just
No,
like
these
normal
are
questions
really good
for,
questions.
yeah.
All right, Kirtana, go ahead.
Hey, my questions are also around that. And like not about just the API keys and credentials, but also specifically about, because Lovable does not let you have any private unless you pay a higher amount, right? When you pay like 20, it's only like public. Everything is public. And so my question was around what happens when you want to actually create this as an MVP and then you have a bigger plan. So how does that work? And what are your thoughts about it?
Like this vibe coded.me tool that I mentioned, I actually built this using Lovable. And then right now we get 3,000 people on this every month. And so when I got to a point where there's like a lot of traffic coming to this website, and I didn't want to like use Lovable for every minor change, then being technical, I just myself ported it out of Lovable and hosted it at a different provider. So there is definitely a path for you to go from, now that my product is working, people are like checking it out, and maybe there's a path to monetization. I can now hire a developer, and you can find like really good developers on Upwork, and you can find people who have done this before, who have taken products from Lovable and moved them to, I'm using Cloudflare for this one, but you can use Vercel, you can use AWS, like any other platform. Superbase scales really well to like massive production apps. So that you won't have to worry about. The only thing I did was come out of Lovable. So my domain is not stuck with Lovable, my hosting is not stuck with Lovable. And chances are you can host like a Lovable app basically for free with Cloudflare.
Okay.
So once it's built, you can stop paying Lovable, hire a developer to move it out. Like my recommendation, I'm talking to a bunch of developers these days as well. My recommendation is get good at moving products out of Lovable or Bolt.new into whatever and charge a fixed fee to people. Because this will become like a common thing where people are like, okay, now I got to a good place. Now I want to hire real developers. I'll go to Upwork, do a fixed price project where they move this stuff for you. And then you just pay them, exactly what it's going to cost you to move it out. That's, I think, like you will find developers soon that
Yeah.
just do that for you for a few dollars.
Yeah, the question about the legal aspects of it is what you're saying is we don't have to be too worried about it. We are good.
So legality depends on what product you're building. So if you're building, let's say, so this is home inventory, but let's say I wanted to build an app that people can store their like medication on. And so maybe if I go to like real
The HIPAA
and
regulations and things
right,
like
yeah.
that,
So
right?
then I get into, am I allowed to let people put their personal medical information in an app that have no idea how secure it is?
Yeah.
So at that point, I would say it's okay to work with like friends and family just to test out your product. But then when you're going on production, especially when you're charging them and you're making claims like this is uber secure, because that's one thing AI will do. If you tell it like, hey, stay on the landing page, we are HIPAA compliant, it will write, it won't say
won't
like,
think,
oh, but we
yeah.
didn't implement HIPAA compliance.
Yeah.
Right. It'll just say that for you. Yeah. So I think like that, use your judgment. Again, use ChatGPT if you're unsure. But in the early days, to me, like this is a godsend because I have an idea in my head. In a few days, I have a working prototype. I can go to my real users. I can even go to investors and ask them like, hey, would you fund this product? I work at this company. I have 20 years of experience in this field. Now I have a technical product that I can show you how it works and have a bunch of people interested. And so then you can raise some funds, then hire a developer, and then
Got it. Typically, just one more thing. Typically, when like back in the day, when you had an idea, you would have an NDA with a bunch of people that you're talking about that idea to, and then you will come together, then you will prepare an MVP, and then you'll go to some investors or just pitch that idea. But right now with Lovable, you can actually create that product. But what if you're presenting it to somebody and then it could be a scenario where they could be like, oh yeah, I can also build this with prompts. So how does that dynamic work in today's day and age, and why do you think this is going to be successful for a lot of people with ideas? Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, so that's the thing. There is no, so what that's called is a moat. So people had a moat where if I built a comprehensive product, it would take someone thousands of dollars to build it. So that was a barrier for someone else to enter into the same market. And now the barrier is $100. So if someone has $100, like I'm exaggerating, like probably $20 you can build it, but $100 you can build a decent product. So let's say I build this house ledger I just mentioned previously. I'm like, would you guys pay $5? And then I thought, you can build it in $20 and like in 4 months, what you would pay me, you can have a product of your own and you never have to pay anyone. And so that's where if we're building products where the whole moat was the technology, I think that doesn't work because anyone can copy your web app. What is a moat now is the relationships that you have with people. So I know 5 companies that want this. I know like decision makers there. And so when you go to someone who you're working with and you say, I'm going to build this product, this is how it's going to work. And they go, oh, I could build it myself. Sure, you could build it yourself, but then maybe that's something that only works for you. And so you have to now maintain it. But not everyone wants to be technical, or not everyone wants to like manage, especially when it comes to company product, have internal employees like fixing issues with the product. They rather have someone who we pay $100 a month and they take care of all of that, even though we know it's 90% vibe coded. So I think the relationships matter more. What matters more is like your knowledge on what are the actual pain points people have. But that too, then you have to move really fast, because the moment your product is out, anyone can copy it. It's come to a point I could sign up for your product for a month, take screenshots for all of your screens, and then go build my own product. So that's totally a thing. But if I have relationships with clients or customers, or if I have like, now there are like influencers who already had an audience. Now they're building apps and then they're selling to their audience. Because in the past, like you would have a founder who built the products and influencers who had audience and they had to like partner. But now influencers can just, so the mode has become who owns the audience and who has people who are listening to them and trust them. And I'll buy from the person I trust rather than some random Joe Schmo who just built a product on Lovable.
Yeah, no, and that's great. I just wanted to get that perspective, and you're so right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right, Rosie, yeah, go ahead.
So just to add here to the discussion, do you think like now product discovery and user research would be of more value, because that is something that you would have done on your own, and that is the research part based on which you have like developed the workflow and the detail?
Yeah, so I think there is value if I did all this research and then I finally landed on this is the workflow. And then someone who didn't do any of that research, they sign up for my product for $10 a month. They copy all those screens, the workflows that I spent hours talking to people and figuring out, and then they just copy that. So that's where I think that work is important for you to build a product anyway. But then, yeah, it's easy for someone to copy. Now, the only thing is, because there are so many people building products, it might just be that for every idea you have, there are like 100 different products out there already. And so the world is so noisy that even for someone to find your product and really know that, oh, this is the product that's like the best user experience or best like workflow. And so let me not copy those 99 others and copy yours. To me, like it's a testament to like the kind of like good product that you've built. And chances are people will copy it. And this is not even new. I worked at a company called Joist where we built estimating and invoicing app for trades contractors. And over the years, when the founders launched that app, there were like very few apps only for trades contractors. So like roofers and plumbers, like people like those to send estimates and invoices. Over 3-4 years, if you go to App Store today and search estimates and invoices, you'll find like hundreds of apps just on Apple App Store. Then if you go on web, there are probably like 250,000 apps out there that just do estimating and invoicing. And now with vibe coding, I could build an estimating and invoicing app overnight. So the mode for them is they just acquired users early. And even if there is a competitive product, now I already have 50 invoices in this tool. I have to export them, move to a different product. So that's friction for users. So if you are in an industry where it's easy to copy you, the only way for you to hold on to that mode is like acquire users quickly. So that friction of them moving out holds them with you for a longer period of time.
Yeah, so that's true. But again, the problem comes to the cost, right? If you have a well-established product, you might be charging more to your clients, but the newer app builder can charge less and offer the same thing.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So if there is a friction of you moving to another product, people will pay more to stay on it, because it might be that you're charging 10 and someone offers at 5. In your mind, that's 50% reduction. But for someone else, it's for $5, I want to export everything, move it to a new app, learn the language of a new app, tell everyone, like, now here are the new links you should use for my estimates. Like all of that headache for $5, you're like, forget it. And like when you're building something getting to market first and acquiring users is always a good strategy, rather than waiting and being, in some cases it might work, but these days, because it's so fast to build stuff, I'll tell you another example is like HubSpot or any of these social media platforms where you can post to social media. There used to be like 3 or 4 major names. Now, like I'm in part of a few founder groups. People ask, what are you using for sending social media posts to like multiple platforms at the same time? Every time I hear 5 new names, because like people can now build those in months rather than years. And so new users are probably going to these apps, but the people who are already paying for HubSpot, very less chance that they're going to now move to these live-coded new apps.
Yeah. Thanks, Pranay.
Cool. So I think we're at a good stage and we're nearing time as well. So what I'll show you now is to just quickly publish this. So we have this version working, and I don't know if reminder started working or not, but okay, there you go. Remind. I can add a new reminder of like change filter every 6 months and next due, let's say like 1st September. And perfect. I have a reminder. Now if I go to my, let's just refresh. So it's not showing here. So now I would have told it like, hey, I was able to add a reminder, but I don't see it in my reminders.
No,
If I go to,
clicked on that bell icon again, so it went off.
right, yeah. So I think if I go to reminders, it is there in the database, but it's not showing in the UI. So that's another thing, like you have visibility into this. You can tell it, hey, reminder was created, and I see it in my UI. Let me extend for another hour. But like I don't see it in the UI, but I see it in the database. So it knows. So in some cases, you can help Lovable in like debugging, which is if I don't see it here, first thing I would do is check the database itself. Do I have rooms? Do I have items? And if I do, then I come back and tell it. If I see it here, but like when I change things, nothing happens, then I should again go to database and see these tables and so on and so forth. So that's just some debugging you can do. But as a final step here, I'll click on publish. So when you publish, so this is the preview link, and you can create another link for publishing. So this is a long-winded name it gave it. So I will call it House Leisure, one word, and I can rename. And so my preview link changed, but also this houseleisure.lovable.app is the link that changed. There are some security warnings that I can heed, but I can do this review security, which also probably uses tokens. So this is a new feature in Lovable where you can review your security settings. But I'll just click publish. And so when I publish, now I have 2 links. One is a preview link and a published link. And then the other thing you can do is if you wanted to have something like houseleisure.com. So if you want a separate domain. So if I go to settings, I go to domains, you can actually buy a domain right from Lovable. So you can click here. It'll open up a window and it's already recommending houseleisure.com, and I can check if that domain is actually available. So Ionos is a partner company that they're working with that provides these domains. So don't be startled if you move to a totally different app. But here, if I wanted, I could buy a domain for $10 a year or whatever, houseleisure.org. So it's only $4 a year. So I can buy this and then go back to Lovable, and I will actually see my new domains here, and I can connect that domain to this app. So I like that because, again, by doing these partnerships, they made it easy for you to have your own custom domain without having to go purchase on GoDaddy, then set up like DNS, and then connect to like Lovable. So I think this is super cool. And for most cases, like when you're brainstorming with ChatGPT, you can come up with like names that are less common where you can actually find a domain. But if you have a domain somewhere else, you can use this connect domain button to connect here as well. But we have this app now working. So I'll copy this and paste in the chat, where you should be able to go sign up, create rooms, create stuff. So I'll just pause the session here, but I'll leave it open to if anyone wants to stay back and ask questions.